What I'd like to suggest to you today is perhaps a rather controversial idea, and it is that what if in our quest to challenge, to combat, to overcome bullying, what if our incessant overuse of the word bullying is actually the thing that's driving higher rates of bullying? What if we've made bullying so normal? What if we've made the labelling of bullies, and perhaps counter to that, the labelling of victims, such a regular occurrence in our schools that it's actually the fuel upon which the bullying fire continues to burn? So what I'd like to suggest to you today is that perhaps we need to use the word bullying a little less often. Here's why. First of all is that I think through the overuse of the word bullying, that what we've created is a circumstance where bullying has become horribly misunderstood. It's become a catch-all, a very broad generic term for any behaviour in which I might not feel comfortable, any circumstance in which I may not have had success or won, or any relationship in which I'm having some difficulty making it work. And that's not what bullying's all about. Bullying is repetitive, bullying is harmful, and bullying is always about power. And not every behaviour that we experience negatively falls under each of those three categories. Yet our insistence across the community is to call almost any behaviour that we're uncomfortable with bullying, and I think that that makes it very hard to zero in on and do something about. The second thing that I want to emphasise to you that has become a problem is that notion of labelling. So what happens when a young person gets labelled as a bully is that we all kind of have this circumstance in our lives where we like to be good at something, and whether it's a negative or a positive label, we will often choose to live up to that label. So when we become a bully, we're hoping that by having that label it will sit uncomfortably with that young person and they want to change and they want to be more like the kid that's sitting next to them, but they don't. What they actually tend to do is to internalise that label because you've agreed that I am that thing, I've kind of tacitly agreed that I probably am that thing, and everybody around us is reinforcing that that's probably true. So I might as well get good at it. The other thing that happens around labels is we eliminate the possibility that perhaps they're not bullies, perhaps they just haven't yet learned to handle the immense responsibility that comes with the ability to be powerful in a social system or in a relationship. Perhaps we've eliminated the idea that a growth mindset kind of trajectory here for them, where they can improve, they can grow out of that behaviour, they can get better at it, they just haven't learned it yet. Perhaps we eliminate from the list of possibilities when we certainly shouldn't. And then what happens when we actually come up with the notion of bullying as being what we need to deal so directly with is that we tend to think that events are all we need to do to be able to do something about bullying. So we get in an inspirational speaker, and inspiration is good, it makes us feel fantastic. What it doesn't do is equip young people with the skills, with the strategies to be able to deploy them in a self-regulated kind of way in a school community, where bullying rates will actually start to come down. So kids get inspiration from an event, but they don't get anything particularly useful in their day-to-day lives. What if we flipped it? What if we, instead of talking about bullying so intentionally and so purposefully and so regularly, started to talk about behaviour that's just mean on purpose? What if we said that these are behaviours that are mean on purpose? Now, could we then not create an opportunity for us to skill up our young people to be able to stand up to mean on purpose behaviour? Because to me, that sounds a little easier, standing up to mean on purpose behaviour, than it is to stand up to a bully. Bullies are intimidating, bullies are powerful, bullies are authoritarian. It's very difficult to stand up with someone with that power, but if all I need to do is to stand up to anybody who exhibits mean on purpose behaviour, then perhaps I could do that. And perhaps what I could also do then is to start to teach our students who may be on either side of the bullying/victim agenda that we could all learn some conflict resolution skills. We can all learn to take situations from the past, to know the harm that's caused by them in the present, and to take action that restores or eliminates that harm for the future that we can all feel comfortable will be enacted upon. Perhaps we can all learn those skills, and we don't have to teach them to just people who might be on one side or the other of the bullying equation. Perhaps we can generically, perhaps we can collectively step into that space of being good problem solvers as a result. There's a positive label. There's a label that I would like our students to live up to. So perhaps the challenge that I'd like to put to you today is to perhaps start talking about bullying a little less and a little more about mean on purpose behaviour and what we can all do to combat that.